Those opening shots from Mission Impossible 2 show the movie's audacious approach to special effects, which is probably one reason the movie is setting box office records. On this show, we'll review MI2 and 3 other new movies and have a report from the Cannes Film Festival. I'm Roger Ebert, film critic of the Chicago Sun-Times.
And I'm Richard Roeper, columnist for the Chicago Sun-Times.
Mission Impossible 2 knows for sure what direction this series should take. It positions its hero, Ethan Hunt, as the James Bond of the 21st century. Tom Cruise stars in a much better movie than the first in the series, fighting to save the world from a deadly virus. The Hong Kong director John Woo, a ranking master of action cinema, showcases Cruise in a streamlined, slicked-down 007 movie with less humor, more serious sex, and almost wall-to-wall action. There's good chemistry between Cruise and Tandy Newton as a master thief whose expertise he needs.
What are you doing here?
Think you're the only one who can pick a lock?
Not just a pretty face after all.
And a hazardous car chase between the hero and the heroine is required in a lot of Bond pictures. Director John Woo has a visual style that doesn't just speed up the action, but breaks it down into separate elements so we get a montage of key moments without too much connecting footage in between. It's effective and exhilarating, and Cruise and Newton bring just enough romance and drama to hold it together.
Well, I think it's interesting that you made all these James Bond references because this is not a James Bond movie.
No.
We already have James Bond. We've got Pierce Brosnan. This is supposed to be the Impossible Mission Force. It's supposed to be a team of people, but it's not. It's a Tom Cruise movie. It's one of the reasons it didn't work for me. You knew this thing was going to be a huge hit. Tom Cruise knows it's going to be a huge hit. I wish he would have come up with a better script to fit the action scenes. Yeah, the action scenes are great, but so what? People know how to do action scenes. John Woo knows how to film them. Tom Cruise knows how to star in them. And you mentioned the chemistry between him and Tandy Newton. I didn't see that happening either.
Well, you know, of course it's just action scenes. You know, it's June. I think people want to go see a movie like this at the beginning of every summer season. And, of course, it's just Tom Cruise and not a team, because what they've done here is simplify it. They're looking for a franchise.
Then why call it Mission Impossible?
Well,
I mean, if he wants to do a super spy movie, he should do a super spy. It's really more like Batman.
Yeah, but it's his Mission Impossible. He's given the mission. He does it. He's the hero. He's there all alone on the mountain in the first shot. He's there throughout the entire movie. And that's the way I think this series is going to develop. It's going to forget the rest of the team, forget the TV show, and be Tom Cruise as James Bond for the 21st century.
Well, they should call it Mission Piece of Cake because he's such a cartoon superhero. Nothing bad's ever going to happen to him.
Oh, come on, you enjoyed this movie, admit it.
I enjoyed certain parts of
right?
it, but, you know, I was also uncomfortable with the Tandy Newton romance because he meets her, he sleeps with her, and then he says, by the way, on our third date, you got to go back and sleep with your ex-boyfriend.
Which is right out of Notorious.
Yeah,
Cary
but
Grant and Ingrid
it's just
Bergman.
kind of creepy. The whole thing was creepy to me. Yeah, the action sequences worked, but I think Tom Cruise has the clout, obviously, to go to his scriptwriters and say, give me more of a story that people can care about.
Well, of course, if you want more of a story, go back to Notorious, where there's a lot of poignancy involving the fact that the woman does what the man she loves asks her to do in order to save her country and so forth. Here it's more cynical, but then here it's 2000 and not 1946.
I'd like to see a more cohesive team effort if it's going to be called Mission Impossible. Okay, next movie. Our next movie is Running Free. It's the story of a free-spirited horse living in a mining town in Africa in 1914. A story that comes straight from the horse's mouth. That's right, Lucky the Horse narrates this strange and baffling melodrama about a herd of horses transported on a German supply steamer to the beautifully stark and forbidding Skeleton Coast just before the First World War.
I was born to run free and wild. No one taught me this. It was something I knew in my blood.
Lucas Haas, the kid from Witness, does the voice of Lucky there, and Chase Moore plays an orphan stable boy who tries to protect Lucky from the evil stable owner.
You steal from my horse, you steal from me.
Halfway through the story, all the people disappear as the mining town is bombed. Then we get lots of scenes of Lucky growing big and strong and running wild through the dangerous Southwest African countryside. Now, Lucky's no Mr. Ed. He doesn't speak. He just thinks aloud, but I'm not sure why he's got an American voice when he's in Africa by way of Germany. No matter, the larger problem here is that while the horses, of course, are magnificent beasts, they're mostly dull and stupid creatures who exist to eat, sleep, run, and, of course, create more horses. Lucky does have a girlfriend, but thank goodness there's no love scene in this movie. Now, Running Free has some breathtaking scenery, and they do some neat tricks with the horses, but this was an ill-conceived premise that played like a Saturday morning kiddie adventure, a very odd one at that.
Yeah, I'm beginning to develop a theory that cartoon animals can talk, but real animals can't talk. And
Let's make it a
Lucky,
law.
in particular, I kept sitting there. Lucky gets to the desert, the Namib Desert, and he says, there wasn't anything green in sight. And I'm thinking, he was born in the hold of a ship. He has never seen anything green in his life. Later, his mother is injured, and he prays by her all night long. And I'm thinking, this is interesting theology. Who does a horse pray to? I mean, constantly through the movie, I realized this is not a horse. This is a little boy who looks like a horse, and that was very distracting to me.
It's wonderful to see the horses roaming free, but it's like a 15-minute National Geographic movie. And this, the basic premise of this horse narrating his story is just so silly that we can't get past that.
And here's another problem. He points out there's nothing green anywhere. He's right. What do the horses eat? When you see them out there in that little hidden lake that they've discovered in the mountains, there is nothing. There is not even a piece of sagebrush for them to eat.
Oh,
and I've actually been in the Namib Desert, and there's nothing to eat. It all comes in tin cans.
Well, then, but if we had a horse starvation movie, you know, Lucky, we all died one by one, and then we became skeletons. At least it would have put us out of our misery a little.
Yeah, but you're right, I think, to say that the talking is what's the problem. Movies like Black Stallion and White Fang are movies about animals that don't talk, and they're much more effective for that reason. Coming up, 2 movies about double lives. And yes, that is Martin Lawrence in Big Mama's house.
I've gone undercover as Big Mama.
That's an image that's going to keep me up tonight.
And Demi Moore also has split identities in Passion of Mind.
I don't know which one is the dream and which one is real. Aaron, you may think that I am absolutely certifiably insane. I have a whole other life in France.
When she's not in the life she loves the life she's in. In Passion of Mind, Demi Moore plays a woman who is living 2 lives at the same time. In New York, she's single, named Marty, and is a high-powered literary agent. In France, she's Marie, a book reviewer and the mother of 2. When she's asleep in one place, she's awake in the other. Now, the time zones don't quite work out, but we're not supposed to worry about things like that as she picnics with the man she loves in France.
Do you live in New York?
No. Why New York?
She knows a writer in New York, and I want her to show him all her stories.
Her stories? Your mommy reviews other people's stories in the New York Times. She doesn't write her own stories.
That's Stellan Skarsgård as her love interest in Europe. In Manhattan, she meets another nice guy played by William Fichtner.
So tomorrow night, you're going to bring me back some foie gras?
Oh, how cruelly you make sport of the insane.
I prefer stone-cold nuts myself, but that's just me.
She has psychiatrists in both places, although only one of them presumably is real, trying to help her figure out the tangle. Peter Riegert is her New York shrink, or does he exist only in a dream?
I mean, who would fantasize being a housebound mother and a widow at that? No romance. That has to be real. But New York, glamorous career, power, self-expression.
He said it faster with less drama.
I think the psychiatry represents the real weakness of this movie, which is that it falls into the formula of a problem that has to be solved. Marie, or Marty, doesn't know which one of her lives is real, and so therefore she and the movie and the audience all fixate on finding out the answer. Well, why not just take this premise through a U-turn into something adventurous and original in which she boldly experiments with these 2 lives? Think of the brilliant way a movie like Being John Malkovich toys with identity, and you can see how Passion of Mind is locked into being a one-dimensional case study that's fixated on finding the answer.
Well, you're right. I mean, one of them could have gotten on the plane. Demi in France could have gotten on the plane and come to New York, or the other way around. But other than that, it actually worked for me. And as an audience member, I didn't sit there the whole time trying to figure it out. I just enjoyed it. I thought Demi Moore, this was probably her best performance. I like the way her face is changing as she gets a little older. I think she's a more interesting looking person. And I like both worlds. And yeah, you mentioned the time differences, but again, it's a dream world, or at least part of it's a dream world, and people don't exactly pay attention to the order of time or logic in dreams.
Yeah,
right?
I realize that the time zone thing is a non-starter, and I shouldn't have brought it up because really, and I'm not giving anything away, she really only lives in either one place or the other, so it isn't really a problem. But on the other hand, I don't know, it just seemed to me like it was so simplistic, like which of these lives is real? How about, hey, I think I'm living 2 lives, and they can both be fun, and I'm going to mess around with this. As for example, in Me, Myself, and I, the movie that came out a couple of weeks ago, where a woman leaves one lifestyle and goes into another, and is conscious of where she came from and where she is now, and plays with that, learns from it.
Well, maybe the setup was simplistic, but the ending surprised me, and I wasn't trying to figure it out, and I actually had chills. I felt physical chills, so I didn't feel manipulated. I felt that it had a really interesting thing to say, and it's the kind of movie maybe you want to go back and watch it again. At least I think I want to, like you do with Sixth Sense and Stir of Echoes and some of these other supernatural thrillers. I liked it a lot.
Okay.
Okay, coming up next, we've got FBI agent Martin Lawrence, a master of disguise in Big Mama's house.
Look what the wind done blew my... Damn, you fine.
Even wearing a big old lady disguise, Martin Lawrence can't hide his libido when he meets Neil Long in Big Mama's house, an action comedy stew that's equal parts Tootsie, Stakeout, Nutty Professor, and 48 Hours. Lawrence and Paul Giamatti are FBI partners who stake out Big Mama's house, hoping her granddaughter will show up, and that her granddaughter's bank-robbing ex-boyfriend will come after her. But the real Big Mama has to leave because the script demands it, so Lawrence can impersonate her.
Hey, Big Mama, don't show no shame. Show them you can shake that thing. Shake it right, shake it left. Show them you don't need no help. I like big women, I like that style. I know y'all can get but wild. Show me love, I'll show you.
This leads to a predictable medley. Big Mama fends off a man, Big Mama goes to karate class, Big Mama and her great-grandson take on the locals in a game of hoops.
Game point! Shot to do the shack of door, she's...
Only an idiot would really believe that's Big Mama, but that's okay because just about everybody in this movie is thicker than Big Mama's latex thighs.
Big Mama, it's time. This baby could be here any minute.
Excuse me?
Well, you're the midwife, aren't you?
Midwife!
Now, I mentioned the likes of Tootsie and 48 Hours, but Big Mama's house isn't nearly as smart or charming as those films. Martin Lawrence scores some big laughs in a church scene, and Neil Long is a real sweetheart. But the bathroom jokes and the cheap slapstick humor and the endless sight gags turn Big Mama's house into a dilapidated structure incapable of holding up even a 99-minute comedy. Maybe Big Mama can visit Eddie Murphy and the Clumps later this summer and learn how it's really done.
You know, I kind of feel the same way you do. There were some big laughs in the movie. There was a childbirth scene where Big Mama calls for a plumber's friend and an oven mitt, and I'm laughing at that.
You gotta admit you're laughing.
And there are some other moments, and Martin Lawrence is actually a talented guy.
Very talented guy.
One of the problems is we get way more of Big Mama than we want, and less of Martin Lawrence than we would probably enjoy. Neil Long is reduced. She's very attractive. She's reduced to just standing around as kind of the straight woman. And the story itself, as you so aptly put it, depends upon the fact that everyone has to be a complete idiot to fall for this Big Mama.
What kind of a woman doesn't recognize her own grandmother when she comes home to visit her?
Big Mama's boyfriend turns up and doesn't know it's his girlfriend.
Yeah,
what about all the neighbors? They don't understand either.
And on top of that, the real Big Mama, who we do see at times in the film, is kind of a nasty lady. And then Martin Lawrence plays her as this just wonderful, oh, honey child, you know, hugging everybody type of character. So that doesn't make sense either.
Okay, when we come back, a report from the Cannes Film Festival, the most important film showcase in the world. I've just returned more or less in one piece from the 53rd Annual Cannes Film Festival in France, where 40,000 people jammed the Riviera for a week and a half to look at hundreds of movies, good ones, bad ones, and ones they sell by the pound. 24 of the movies are in the official competition, and this year the winner for both Best Picture and Best Actor was Dancer in the Dark by the Danish director Lars von Trier, starring the Icelandic pop star named Björk. She plays a nearly blind punch press operator in Washington State who wants money to save her son from blindness and is charged with murder. Now, this is a story that would be right at home in a silent melodrama, maybe starring Lillian Gish, and von Trier adds another level by making it into a musical, sort of a blue-collar Sound of Music. My own favorite film in the competition was Songs from the Second Floor by Roy Andersson of Sweden, which shared the jury prize. This is a comedy so dark, so twisted, so bizarre, so bleak, and so funny, it's almost indescribable. If Björk won Best Actress, a very different kind of performance won for Best Actor. Tony Leung was named for the bittersweet In the Mood for Love by Wong Kar-wai, about neighbors in Hong Kong who discover their spouses are having an affair. Then they fall in love themselves. Maggie Chung co-stars.
唔知佢哋點樣開始㗎啦。
As for the winner, Dancer in the Dark, it's the kind of film you need to bring a lot of theory to. It's not technically a dogma film, but it's a spin-off inspired by the group's no-frills vow of cinematic chastity. It's interesting, and I'm somewhere in the middle on it. I'm still trying to figure out if it's a complete fraud or if it's absolutely brilliant. I don't have a clue yet.
You may be the only person who's in the middle on this movie, because people are going to either love it or hate it. You mentioned that Bjork is losing her sight. I wish she had been losing her voice, quite frankly, because if she broke into song one more time, I was going to have to leave the theater.
You know, did you find it a little difficult to accept Catherine Deneuve as a punch press operator?
Yeah, she's so glamorous, no matter what they do. You'd have to be putting the camera a million miles away for her not to be Catherine Deneuve.
I interviewed Von Trier. I asked him about that. He said, she is an excellent punch press operator. She made a sink that I have in my home.
Oh, yeah, but she still looks like a statue when she's doing it. She's so beautiful.
She sure is. Of course, hundreds of films play outside the official competition at Cannes, and the best single film I saw during the entire festival was in the marketplace, not in the festival palace. It was a wonderful Australian film named Innocence by Paul Cox, starring Julia Blake and Charles Tingwell in luminous performances as two people who were in love as teenagers and meet again after 50 years, only to find out that their special passion still exists. This is a great film.
It made me very happy.
Me too.
I love you. Almost loved you.
The most popular film in the director's fortnight was Girl Fight, a winner from Sundance, starring Michelle Rodriguez as a young woman who wants to be a boxer and ends up in the ring against her boyfriend. It will open in September. I also liked Nurse Betty by Neil LaBute, which won the Best Screenplay Award and starred Renee Zellweger as a simple-minded Midwestern girl who escapes from her miserable marriage by passionately believing in the reality of a soap opera and its star, played by Greg Kinnear.
Billy, it's me. We were engaged.
Nurse Betty opens in October. And here was a movie for movie lovers, Shadow of the Vampire by Elias Marriage, starring Willem Dafoe in the story of the filming of the silent horror classic Nosferatu. Dafoe plays the actor Max Schreck, who in this version not only plays a vampire, but is a vampire.
There you are. It's incredible, no? I wish you could all see your faces.
Shadow of the Vampire opens in September. The Cannes Film Festival is an annual reminder of what an incredible and challenging selection of movies is made every year, and most of these movies, however, will not get wide North American releases. Some of them will probably hardly open at all, but the good ones are really worth looking for, and I hope moviegoers get a good chance to see Innocence and Songs from the Second Floor, which in their very different ways are really something.
Well, I had a chance to see a couple of these movies. I like the energy of Girl Fight, although I didn't quite believe that she could actually beat those guys. But you mentioned Innocence, and it's really terrific, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's heartbreaking, and it's smart, and it's great to see older people not just in love, but in lust in some cases. It's a really terrific film.
And the fact that they have to deal with their lust in real situations. All of this is so beautifully done. Now, you know, somebody connected with the festival told the director, Paul Cox, that the movie was too sentimental. And, you know, it's not sentimental.
I don't know, yeah.
It's very realistic and tough about the fact that just because you fall in love when you're 68 doesn't mean you're cute and huggable. It means you still have all the problems of passion and everything else that you would have at any other
yes,
age.
there's sentiment there, but it's actually shattering in some levels as well.
You're right. Okay, we'll be back in a moment. Now let's take another look at the movies we reviewed on this week's show. A split decision on Mission Impossible 2. I thought it was Bond for the 21st century. Richard thought it was more of a comic book adventure. 2 thumbs down on Running Free, a well-intentioned but ludicrous talking horse movie. Another split decision on Passion of Mind, starring Demi Moore. I thought it could have played more with its premise. Richard thought the story was ultimately rewarding. And 2 thumbs down for Big Mama's House, starring Martin Lawrence.
So I'm coming out of this saying that people should take a chance on Passion of Mind.
And I think Mission Impossible 2 is pure kinetic adventure, and John Woo is a very interesting director, and you're wrong.
Well, that's interesting, because I actually think I'm right.
That is interesting. Remember, you can hear our reviews at Ebert-movies.com, and Richard and I are both at suntimes.com.